They found them to be the only known living relatives of the giraffe. They have similar headbone structures and tongues. To your left, those are satin-billed storks over there. These birds roughly are about 5 feet tall with a wingspan that's 9 feet in length. But whenever they mate, they will be mating for their entire lives. And you can tell the males and female apart by the color of the eyes. Bright yellows are females, dark browns are males. And for the okapis, the way you tell from males and female parts, if they have a smooth head, they're a female. If they have little bumps on their heads, they're male. And most of the animals that live out here tend to hide in the bushes quite a bit. Some animals hide so often they are given a nickname from how well they can hide in this bush tree line. Mostly they do it as a way to keep themselves cool, but also, especially during the nighttime, as a way to hide from those predators. Oh, to your left, that's a black rhinoceros. Now, black rhinoceros weigh between 1 and 3,000 pounds. They typically are found by themselves because of them being a solitary creature. Only once in a while do you find two of them next to one another, like, say at nighttime near a watering hole, you'll find two of them that are looking to get more acquainted with one another. Now I see further ahead of us are some bonzas coming up. These are the creatures I was mentioning that have a nickname, and that is Ghost of the Forest. Simply because, look there to your left, they hide so well that if you're not looking for them, they just blend in the territory around them. They only stand 4 feet tall, but do weigh about 900 pounds. In the corner there to your left, those are some greater kudos. Now, they may look related to deer, but greater kudos are cousins of antelope, but they do stand a good over 5 feet tall and weigh about 750 pounds. And now we're going to make our journey off the Softly River. And off there to your right hand side is an H2O. And some vultures, a small little flock of them. Now, the larger birds on the island to the left, those are pink-backed pelicans. And they do have a pink feather that appears on them, but only around mating seasons you really see it appear. And fully grown, these birds are around 75 pounds, and their bills can extend at 5 times their normal size. Their diet is mostly just that of fish, frogs, or lizards, but really anything that could fit within their bills, they will always try to eat it. A group of them is known as a pod of pelicans. And within the pods, males and females share equal partnerships. They help out each other when it's laying on their egg, building their nest, or looking for food. But to your left-hand side are some Nile crocodiles. Now, Nile crocodiles can grow to be as long as 15, nearly 20 feet in length, weigh at about 500 pounds, and they're a cold-blooded creature. So when you find their mouths are extended, that is simply how they regulate their own body temperature. And once they find a very nice, comfortable spot, they will stay there for hours on end. They don't move a whole lot. But when they are moving, they can run 25 miles per hour on land or 20 in the water. A group of them on the shoreline is called a brisket. And now we're going to make our journey off to the savanna region. Here to your right hand side is a Baobab tree. This tree can live to be thousands of years old. It has a nickname being called the upside down tree because 9 months of the year it's leafless, so it looks as if it's growing upside down. In fact, that's the second nickname, the Tree of Life. Mainly because inside of Baobab trees there's 30,000 gallons of water that keeps it alive, plants around it alive, and during certain times of years, animals alive as well. life around it, being named Tree of Life. Now there's your right hand side are some Turkish mountain zebras, and behind them some ankle cattle. Upper mountain zebras, when they're first born, they know how to fully walk and run in the first 15 minutes of their own birth. And you find that young little foals, their legs are just as long as the adults are. So they look almost identical. The only way you can tell the difference from a young foal to a full adult is by sheer body mass. The smaller body mass will be the foal. But in 2.5 years' time, it will look like a fully grown adult. There's also a Maasai giraffe hiding by the tree over there. Now, when the Maasai giraffes are first born, it does take them well over a good hour to know how to fully walk and run, getting used to the very long, lengthy legs they have. But then once they become fully grown, they can be from 18 to 20 feet high in the air, but they can weigh around 7,000 pounds when they are fully grown. Now hiding back to the corner here to your left are some sable antelopes. Sable antelopes, when they're first born, they're very light brown color, but as they get older, it'll get darker. And over time, it becomes very dark black-like color, that's a male, and a darker brown coat are females. And the longest they can live to be about roughly 18 years of age, but they are the symbol and emblem of Permanently Wildlife Reserve, simply because they are protective of each other and their territory. Much of like the people who live here on this reserve, they are very caring, very protective of both the animals and the reserve itself.
Oh, they get them excited.
These big mounds of dirt are termite mounds. Now, termite mounds could be either 3 feet high or 30 feet high in the air. They are made of and mostly constructed from saliva, dirt, and animal dung. And 3 feet tall only takes termites about a year to make it that high. But to get it 30 feet high in the air, that would take them close to a century to get it that high. That small little creature walking around to your left is a springbok, the smallest of the antelope species. And here's a closer view of those antelopes. Now, those horns you're seeing do grow between 5 to 6 feet in length. But upon looking at them, your first thought is they're really heavy, aren't they? No, they weigh 5 or 12 pounds. And that's because they're hollowed, honeycomb structured on the inside. It's like this because for anklet cows, as they circulate their blood through those horns, it can cool down their body temperatures. And even with the large horns on top of their heads, they can still run up to 32 miles per hour. Now the Springboks, even though they are very small, they're only max grown, they're 3 feet tall, maybe 100 pounds. They're very quick on their feet. Because when their first instinct reaction when a predator is nearby them is to jump 6 feet straight in the air. After they do this reaction, they can take off running between speed at 50 to 60 miles per hour. They are in fact one of the only animals that can outrun the cheetah. Because running at their max speeds, they also can leap 13 feet straight forward and through the air. They are very, very springy in their legs, which is how they got the name Springbok, because they kept springing all over the air and bonking from place to place. There's also, I see over there to your right hand side, it looks like a pairs of elands on the other side of this hill. Let's see if that's what. Oh, and some, like just some white-bearded wildebeests. White-bearded wildebeests are migratory animals. Oh, and a few more Maasai giraffes to your left. And when a group of them is gathered in one area, that's called a tower of giraffes. White-bearded wildebeests are migratory animals where every year they go from 500 to 1,000 miles. Well, some patterns of elands there to your right-hand side, the light and gray tone ones. The elands are the largest of the antelope species. Fully grown, they're up to about 6 feet tall and around 2,000 pounds, but can still jump about 4 feet straight in the air. Something else about white-bearded wildebeests is that they travel in fairly large herds. The smallest you can find of them is probably a good 1,000. The highest of them could be 10,000 plus. Oh, further ahead, I see an African elephant will be coming up into view. It looks like right now it's splashing itself in a lot of water. African elephants actually have very sensitive skin for them. So during the day, they'll do a couple of different things. This one's doing one right now. Taking some of that water and splashing it all over itself just as a way to cool itself off. But then later, it's probably going to find some sand or some loose dirt and splash it on itself. It creates this, creates that wet barrier for itself, so the sand and water, the sand and dirt will stick to its body a lot better, acting as a sunscreen protection. They do drink around 45 gallons of water in just a day's time, and that trunk at one time could hold up to 5 gallons worth of water. So now let's continue on with the journey and see what else we can find. Now there is this very old bridge we got to cross on over. It's been around since 1971. It's gone through a few things throughout the years, but they're doing the best holding it together with the use of rope and duct tape. Well, we do never really know when it might get a little tipsy. Doesn't look like it's going to be me, so we'll just go ahead and one day we find more animals. To your left and right inside. This mineral is known as red clay. And you see the striations to your right, those are tusk mark striations. African elephants eat the red clay for the vitamins and nutrients inside of it. And I do see a few more up there to your left hand side. Or they'll go around and they'll eat not only red clay, but they're also going to look for a lot of grass, bush, trees, and the roots of everything. Because on average in a day, a little young one there to your left, they eat around 300 pounds of food in just one day's time alone. And it's just because of how large they are. Though, first born, they start life only about 2 feet tall and maybe 300 pounds. And they grow at actually a very slow rate compared to most animals in the wild. And mainly it's because they live a longer lifespan than most animals. An average lifespan for African elephants ranges from 45 up to 80 years of age. And so, once they do get fully grown, which could be between the ages of 20 and 30 for them, they could be up to 7.5 feet tall and weigh a good 14,000 pounds at that point. And African elephants have 3 different ways of how they can communicate between one another. That is either through the trunk or through body gestures they do towards one another, which is flapping the ears, raising their trunks in certain ways, things like that. But they also have a third way, which is through their feet. They are able to make a micro vibration within their feet, but they do have to be within a certain proximity to one another for them to be able to talk in that way. And also their trunk, it does hold about 192 different nerve endings just in the trunk alone. Now here to your left hand side, these are the greater flamingos. And if you look and notice, there are some gray flamingos in there. That's because when they start life, they're only a foot tall and gray feathered. Now in just 2 months time, they'll go from being 1 foot tall to being up to 5 feet tall. But to go from that gray to pink feather, that is a 10-month plus process of them eating brine shrimp. Inside of it, there's a mineral known as beta carotene that they're trying to get integrated fully into their bloodstream. Once fully integrated, their gray feathers will naturally transform into pink. And when there's a group of them all gathered together, it is called a flamboyance. And now we're going to be heading into the East Savannah region. Oh, and hiding over the shade there, she left her some white rhinoceros sleeping. Now, white rhinoceros actually weigh between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds. And unlike their cousin, the black rhinoceros that's by itself, they're very social. It's actually very common to find either a pair of them or larger groups of them. A group of white rhinoceros is called a crash. And the average lifespan for them is between 40 to 45 years of age. Top speed is actually, they can max out at 45 miles per hour. And for white rhinoceros, they really don't have the greatest eyesight. Their hearing is incredible. As you see, their ears are twitching right now. That's because they're listening for the sounds around them and to be aware of what's around them. But their eye vision, they only see roughly 10 feet in front of them. And everything around them looks like colored blobs. So for them to know exactly what blob they can or cannot go through, they either bump, ram, or sometimes at full speed crash right into the item. Which is why a group of them is called a crash. When they venture into the area, they're crashing all over into things. Now it's going to be kind of hard to spot, but off there to the far left, tucked back up, there's two cheetahs actually tucked back in those hills. Cheetahs can go from the speed of 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds, but cheetahs only can maintain it for a few hundred yards at best. That's when they use their other instincts, their tails, unattractive claws. They're also a very patient creature to where they're considered to be the most successful hunting animal when it comes to members of the cat family. But I do see something that's sort of lying about there to your left. You see it next to the rocks, and they're going to be looking at the sunlight for a little bit. That is a female lion. You can tell it's a female because it doesn't have the big old mane on it. Males are the only ones that have manes. Lions are actually quite inactive. They spend 16 to 20 hours of their day resting, sleeping. It's a way for them to conserve their energy for later times in the night when they're out hunting. Now, a group of lion is known as a pride, and males are protectors. The females are the hunters. There's a second one on the edge of the rocks there to your left. And in prides, it is actually very common to find only one male, but then it's anywhere between 2 up to 12 females at one time you'll find. Speaking of a male lion, there's one sleeping right over there. Now, lions fully grown are around 500 pounds and still could jump about 30 feet straight into the air. On top of this, a lion's roar is quite powerful. The roars reverberate in the air, so when a lion roars, it's heard 5 miles away. And up here to your right hand side is an ostrich. The biggest flightless bird of the wild. But even though they're flightless, those long lengthy legs you see can help them run to top speeds of 40 miles per hour. They're also strong enough to fend off the attack of a lion if they need to. A group of ostrich is simply known as a flock. There's actually some of their eggs there to your right. As well as in the back are some scimitar horned oryxes, right next to them, a bonza. Scimitar horned oryxes are creatures that are basically built for the desert. One thing that they can do is drink water and proceed not to drink water again for another 9 months. The bonza are small chestnut brown coat creatures that, when their coats are in sunlight, they actually do a little shimmer glow in the sunlight. It's a very beautiful thing to see. And an ostrich egg can withstand nearly 300 pounds of pressure and not crack, and only weighs 3 pounds. And now we'll be making our journey into Magadi Glen. And this is where you're going to find the warden's post. I don't see any wardens, but I do see some Nigerian dwarf goats still be coming up. These Nigerian dwarf goats you can see are fully grown. They get no bigger than you see them now. But they like to do 3 things throughout the whole day, and they're doing one of them right now, sleeping. The other thing they like to do is eat, and their favorite thing on diet is actually a lot of weeds and underbrush. And then the third thing they like to do throughout the day is just to play around with one another, which usually means they're just pushing at one another with the little horns they have, trying to see who is the strongest.